Well, I gotta say, out of all the lone wolf, bullshit, stage shootings that have happened in the past, this Las Vegas episode is by far the sloppiest dog and pony show that I've ever come across. Like, ever. If you haven't seen part 1 of the Cut to the Truth Vegas case closed, then don't worry. You can go back and watch that one after you finish this. But I do recommend you take a look at some point for the proof of why we know there were multiple shooters at the Route 91 Music Festival, which left 59 people dead and a half thousand others injured from automatic gunfire. But today we put the nail in the coffin. There is no way this was a random occurrence hatched by one psychopath. This was several psychopaths that planned this, and it took a whole team of people to execute it. For this, there's no doubt. And anything you hear from the mainstream media telling you about it is a complete lie. And what I'm about to show you will prove that. And all you have to do to grasp that fact is to just ask yourself why the mainstream media isn't showing you these facts. We'll start off easy and we'll work our way to what I consider the smoking gun of this whole debacle by the end of the video. But beforehand, we'll start with this guy, Rocky Palmero, who took a round to the pelvis at the concert that night, which was mere inches from being fatal for him. Like a ton of other witnesses, Rocky says he has no doubt there were multiple shooters at the concert that night, which, as we proved in the last video, is a definite fact. But what makes Rocky's claim so important is that he can prove it based on his injury by simply showing the trajectory of the entrance wound. According to his interview with TheBlast.com, he believes, quote, there were between 3 to 5 active shooters during the attack because as he ran from the initial gunfire, he describes bullets not only raining down, but flying horizontally at the crowd.
I definitely do believe that there was 100% more than one shooter. Every other person that I've talked to that did get unfortunately hit as well have all said the same things. When something's coming up and down, or at least from a different angle, they're either going to hit the ground, they're going to a lot of different things are going to happen. When someone's shooting from a straight horizontal line, it's just going to keep flying. As soon as we heard a little break in it, we knew we had to keep running. We heard the gunfires approaching where we were. They just started getting closer and closer and louder. And I knew we were getting gunshots that were closer to us than where they originally started, and that's when we knew we had to run. I do believe that there were people inside of the venue that once the initial shooting started, and everyone kind of panicked, running everything. Once the lights turned on the stage and kind of lit everything up, it was a lit target. Every other night at the concert, everybody kind of exited right off Las Vegas Boulevard. That was standard. That was routine. You get out of the concert and you go down and go into the next casino. Well, at 10 o'clock, they closed every exit on Las Vegas Boulevard, every single one. They gated them all closed with chain link fences. 10:08, the shooting started, and it was we were pigs sitting in a corral. We only had one exit to go out of, and I don't think one patient has been able to leave without giving another statement, myself included. As soon as I got discharged, there were 2 federal agents that wanted to get another audio statement when I left. And I'm telling them the same thing I'm telling you. I definitely believe there were at least 3 to 5 shooters, and 100% there was not just one person shooting from the 32nd floor.
Now, before moving on, I want to mention, purely in the interest of disclosing all the information circling around this issue, that a video has been posted which purports to show Stephen Paddock, the alleged shooter, playing poker 6 days after he was supposed to have killed himself. Now, I can't substantiate whether or not this is Paddock. I mean, it looks like him, but I think you'd probably have to be the stupidest person on planet Earth to be playing poker in a Vegas casino mere days after your picture began to be smeared all over the world attached to a story about a Vegas poker player who shot 600 people. I find this pretty hard to believe. But I have to admit the guy does look very similar to Stephen Paddock. It's really bizarre. But since I can't substantiate it, I'm not going to show it, because if it's just some guy in the video, I'd hate to have furthered an accusation against him for being involved in a situation that left 59 people dead when he was completely innocent. But for the record, the video is out there, and it is entirely possible. But anyways, moving on. Another strange occurrence I'll mention that happened over the weekend was when Paddock's Reno house was broken into. USA Today says the burglars broke in through the front door, but they don't know how many people were involved, and they say nothing was taken or even damaged. Now the Reno police and FBI are together, quote, working to make sure no further incidents occur, end quote. So I don't want to speculate on what significance this bears on the case as a whole, if any, but it's worth noting as it's just another strange piece to this overall puzzle of corruption. And also this weekend it was stated by the Vegas police that Paddock shot a security guard in the hallway of the Mandalay Bay Hotel 6 minutes before he opened fire on the crowd out the window, which completely changes their story from earlier when they said the guard was reacting to the shooting. And to make matters even more convoluted, MGM Resorts then denied the police version of the story and said they have it all wrong when it comes to the timeline. So these people can't seem to keep their stories straight at all. As I said, this is the sloppiest cover-up in history. It was busted right out of the gate, and it keeps getting more tattered every single string that's pulled. And yes, we can be sure it's a cover-up. Which brings us to what I think is the smoking gun here, or should I say one of the many smoking guns. Maybe I'll call this the nail in the coffin. And that's what we find when we follow the money. This method 99 times out of 100 will lead to the guilty parties, and this is one of those cases for sure. So first we'll deal with the man who seems to be behind most of the planned turmoil festering within America, the infamous George Soros, who bought a put option on 1.35 million MGM shares, totaling over $42 million, several weeks before the massacre happened. So to explain in the most basic sense, because I'm no investor and this stuff confuses me, but a put option is an option to sell assets at an agreed price on or before a particular date. That's the actual definition. So in the world of investments, if you believe a stock's price is going to drop, you can buy a put option for an agreed price for the stock when selling it. So like if you have shares worth $100 each and you think they're going to drop in value, you can make a deal to sell them to your buyer for $80 each in 2 months from then. And if the price does in fact drop during that time to let's say $50 a share, you'll have made $30 a share above the market price. So when dealing with millions of shares at a time, betting against a stock in this way can make someone a massive profit, just as John Paulson did in 2007 when the market was crashing on everybody else. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. In short, betting against a stock is a way to make big profits, but you basically have to be a fortune teller to do it with any success. Unless, of course, you have inside information, which is illegal. Well, this is exactly what George Soros seems to have done 8 weeks before the MGM shooting. The Securities and Exchange Commission has released his filings for August 2017, and they show he bet big against over 1 million shares in a company he didn't even own on his filings from 4 months prior, and that's the MGM shares. So you gotta ask yourself, how did George Soros, the man behind so much political, social, and economical corruption in the world, and a man so connected he can influence entire countries with a mere phone call, how did he know the MGM stock was going to fall? The common sense answer can only be because he knew the event was going to take place before it did. And if you're confused about this, take into consideration that MGM had just approved a $1 billion share repurchase program, which means the company itself goes around and buys up its own stocks, and in turn, because there's less shares available to the public, they go up in price. So why would Soros bet they were going to go down? What could he have possibly known that no one else did? Well, it turns out Soros wasn't the only one who knew, and this is where it gets even crazier. According to another SEC filing, we see that MGM's CEO himself, James Mirren, dropped 80% of his personal shares in MGM. We're talking millions upon millions of dollars here. This guy was involved in the repurchasing program himself, and he turns around right after and dumps almost all of his stock in the company. Any fool should know that this move would be seen as him working against his company by creating a panic when a CEO rids himself of the stocks for his own company. The only explanation would be that he thought the stock was going to take a nosedive. As the disobedient media aptly posits, quote, "It needs to be asked why any profit-oriented CEO of any company would sell 80% of his personal stake in his own corporation, especially after he thought it was in the business's best interest to initiate a massive share repurchase program, which one would theoretically assume to reduce the number of shares in the company and increase the price of each share. Ceteris paribus." Why would the individual with the most information about the company sell 80% of his shares immediately after the commencement of a program that most would consider positive for the stock? Shouldn't he want to hold on to his shares? Is there something he knew that others didn't that led to so much movement in such a little time? What a week! End quote. So there you have it. And it doesn't take much imagination to figure out what Mirren's scheme is here. It's the same as the Rothschilds after the Battle of Waterloo. He sells the shares as they're high. The shooting that was planned happens, and then the stocks drop, and then he buys them back for pennies on the dollar. And abracadabra, you just made millions in profits. For nothing. Well, there's a term for that. It's called insider trading, and it's illegal. But not as illegal as mass murder. And based on Soros and Murray's market activity, we can see, if nothing else, a full investigation of them both is completely warranted, and even more should be demanded by the American people. These moves are the smoking guns. These men profited off the murder and injuries of innocent people. And this was no accident. Soros' put option and Murray's selling off of nearly all the shares he had in the very company he runs are both only possible if they knew the stock would drop for some otherwise unforeseen reason. And then bang, the biggest mass shooting in American history happens at the MGM. What are the chances? That's all I got for now. Share this video if you found it interesting, and don't forget to subscribe with the button below. Until next time, I'm Olin Thomas for Cut to the Truth.